Let's get a response now from the chairs of the Intelligence Committees, Democrat Dianne Feinstein from the Senate, Republican Mike Rogers from the House. And Senator Feinstein, let me begin with you. You heard Mr. Greenwald and Senator Udall right there. They believe that the balance between privacy and national security is out of whack with these programs. Your response?
Well, of course, balance is a difficult thing to actually identify what it is. But I can tell you this. These programs are within the law. The business record section is reviewed by a federal judge every 90 days. It should be noted that the document that was released, that was under seal, which reauthorized the program for another 90 days, came along with a second document that placed and discussed the strictures on the program. That document was not released. So here's what happens with that program. The program is essentially walled off within the NSA. There are limited numbers of people who have access to it. The only thing taken, as has been correctly expressed, is not content of a conversation, but the information that is generally on your telephone bill, which has been held not to be private personal property by the Supreme Court. If there is strong suspicion that a terrorist outside of the country is trying to reach someone on the inside of the country, those numbers then can be obtained. If you want to collect content on the American, then a court order is issued. So the program has been used. 2 cases have been declassified. One of them is the case of David Headley, who went to Mumbai, to the Taj Hotel, and scoped it out for the terrorist attack. The second is Nazibullah Zazi, who lived in Colorado, who made the decision that he was going to blow up a New York subway, who went to a beauty wholesale supply place, bought enough hydrogen peroxide to make bombs, was surveilled by the FBI for 6 months, traveled to go to New York to meet with a number of other people who were going to carry out this attack with him, and were arrested by the FBI, who has pled guilty and in federal prison. Here's the point, and this is why this is so difficult. I flew over the World Trade Center going to Senator Lautenberg's funeral, and in the distance was the Statue of Liberty. And I thought of those bodies jumping out of that building, hitting the canopy. Part of our obligation is keeping America safe. Human intelligence isn't going to do it, because you can't, it's a different culture, it's a fanaticism that isn't going to come forward. And so this kind of strictly overseen, it's overseen by the Justice Department, by inspectors general, by audits, by a 90-day review by the court, is looked at as a method. I'm very happy. If there's a better way, we will certainly look at it.
Let me bring that to Congressman Rogers, because you've also said you believe these programs are effective, Mr. Chairman. But what about this idea raised by Senator Udall that you reopen the Patriot Act and put more limits on particularly the phone record collection program, because he says that that hasn't helped. That's his suspicion, at least.
Well, I can tell you in the Zazi case in New York, it's exactly the program that was used. And remember, for all of these programs, this is really important, George. I mean, really important. They are not, the National Security Agency is not listening to Americans' phone calls, and it is not reading Americans' emails. None of these programs allow that. As a matter of fact, the Patriot Act, and that part of that 702 says it is expressly prohibited by law that you can read and wholly surveil domestic email traffic in the United States. So, you know, the inflammatory nature of the comments doesn't fit with what Diane and I know this program really does. And let's just talk about the phone records just real quickly. What this is, and the reason this happened is after 9/11, we realized there was a big hole in our ability to fully identify all of the players in that terrorist plot. And one of it was by the fact that these business records, the phone billing information, is destroyed by these companies. They can't expense-wise, it's really difficult for them to hold it. So this is what happened. The court said, put all of that information in a box and hold that information. And when you want to access that information, you have to use this very specific court-ordered approval process, which means it has to be a foreign person believed to be on a foreign land. So some notion that they can see a name that even comes out of that, by the way, this is important, no name comes out of that search. So even if they get a number, it doesn't have a name on it. This that allows them to do further investigation. But the number of times it's accessed is it's a fraction of a fraction, number one. And number two, no one can data mine that information. That's what's so frustrating to those of us who know this program.
Well, that's what I was just going to get to. Both of you know so much more than any other Americans. And one of the things you heard from